Hi everyone, my name is Federico and welcome to Cuttle's weekly live stream. So this time I'm gonna try and make a snowman. And so hopefully that gives you an idea of how to design it and how to use different like treatments to cut it. So I know a lot of people get ready for the Christmas season already in July. So it's like, let's embrace this Christmas in July situation. So yeah, my goal is to make like a snowman ornament, and I'm gonna try and design it in such a way that we can cut it in different ways. We can use like layer treatments and then score treatments, but I think I wanna kind of explain my kind of design process and thinking. So I have a new blank project over here. I'm gonna call it the Snowman Ornament. And I'm gonna try and design it from scratch as much as possible. So here's my idea. I wanna do like a basic snowman that is like composed of a circle that is about 2¼ inches. So I'm just dragging a circle there, and then another circle that goes on top, and I'm gonna make that one 1½ inches. So I'm going to place this one roughly over here. What is that? And so the goal is to just like kind of create the overall shape of my snowman, and then I'm going to try and start adding elements to it. I previously sketched this snowman, so I think I would like suggest that you do something like that. I can show you some of my sketches. So here, I just sketched it out in pencil. And so I think I landed on something like these, which is like 2 circles. Then I want to have like a top hat, and then a scarf, kind of like a classic look. And then I didn't, I think I decided to go with no legs, but yeah, these were just different options I was trying to sketch out. So that's the basic idea that I have. But I think I want to explain a couple of things as we go along. Okay. So I started with these 2 circles that are going to be like my base shape. And my goal is to use this layer stack modifier. And so I think I want to explain how that one works. So I want to get every shape that I make needs to have a fill in order to work with my system. So I'm going to give these a fill, and I'm going to give these the same fill. And so the idea here is that anything that has the same fill becomes the same shape. So I think I'm going to choose some sort of, because that's like the snow, I'm going to choose like a lighter gray just to signify my snow. And whenever I make changes, then Cuttle creates an additional color swatch over here. And so if I want to repeat that color swatch, I can select the other shape and then click on that one. And so that creates the color swatch. And so if I apply the layer stack here, what happens is that these 2 shapes get joined. So it's the same, at the moment it's the same thing as applying a Boolean union, but the layer stack is all the way down here. So if I apply that one, you'll see how I get the 2 shapes to be joined together, but I'm maybe getting ahead of myself. Let's undo that. And then let's add like the first element would be like some eyes. So I'm gonna choose black for the eyes. So I'm gonna grab a circle. I'm gonna make the eyes about 1/4 inch. And let's give it a black fill. Something like that. I'm going to try and go for a sort of like cute situation. So I'm going to put the eyes kind of like on the center of the circle. Something like these. And because I want the eyes to be symmetric, I'm going to use the mirror repeat modifiers. I'm going to select the eye only. And I go to modify and apply the mirror. So that mirrors the shape across perfectly. And if I make any changes to that shape, you'll see how it kind of adjusts, the second copy. And then I'm going to add a top hat. And Is that the easier element to add? No, actually, let's continue with the face. So for the nose, I'm gonna do something simple. I'm gonna do a triangle, sort of like a carrot shape. I'm gonna place it right there in the center, and I'm just gonna rotate it by holding the corner like this. Holding Shift is gonna rotate in like whole angles, and let's make it smaller. I'm just gonna change the scale like so. And I think I might want to stretch it a little bit. I think, I mean, I don't want to focus like a lot on the design. I'm gonna stick to like simple shapes because like I think the fun part of this is like that you'll get to design it yourself. But I just want to show you like a couple of basic ideas. So I'm designing this all based on the shape. So I'm gonna also add a fill, and I wanted this to be a little rounded. So I'm gonna add just another circle. And what size is that? 0.2. So I want my circle to be the same. 0.2. Maybe that's too much. Something like that. And here's where I don't need to apply a union or anything like that. I can simply make that black. And so when I make that black, that means that when I apply that modifier, anything that is the same color is just gonna be joined together. Moving things around, here we go. I want the triangle to kind of, anyway, so that's my rough nose. And let's add the top hat element. So, oh no, I want to add a smile. So let's add an arc. And I'm gonna use this arc from center and point. I'm gonna place it right here on the center of the circle. And then I can move these points to form this smile. I should use the angle, but yeah, that looks good. So here's a trick that I'm gonna do. Instead of having a simple line, I'm gonna change the stroke of that arc to not be a hairline, to actually have some width. And so that is gonna create a solid shape once I apply my layer stack modifier. So not a lot of treatment. I mean, the whole point of the layer stack modifier is that like as I design, I'm just concentrating in colors and shapes. And then let's add that scarf. And I'm gonna use the same arc idea for the scarf. Now that I'm kind of done with the face. So I'm gonna use the arc. I'm gonna also kind of place it on the center of the circle. I'm gonna bring those points to the sides. And again, I'm gonna change the stroke, the hairline, to be a little thicker. What did I choose before? 0.3. And I'm just gonna adjust the arc until the scarf kind of looks to be in place. All right, so far I used a circle, an arc, just an existing shape. And another technique I can use is to use my pen tool. So I'm gonna add kind of like the two lines that are kind of coming off the scarf, like the knot. So I'm gonna click here and click here, and then that's just one. And then I'm gonna select the pen tool again, and I'm gonna click here and click here to create a line, and I'm done with that. And so what I want with those lines is to have some thickness. So again, I'm gonna check the hairline, stroke, and I'm gonna make those a 1/4 inch. So something like that. Hairline, make it a 1/4 inch. And now I can actually kind of form them a little bit. So I can double click onto the path and then kind of bend it a bit to give it, to kind of suggest the curvature of the body. Same with this line. I'm going to double click into it and I'm going to move it around, curve it a tiny bit. And then I think that's good. That's my scarf. Let's add the top hat. And for the top hat, I'm going to do the same technique. I'm going to grab a circle. I'm going to make it into an oval. So what size did I choose before? Let's see. Let's uncheck the scale to be not even, so something like this. So that's going to be an oval. Let's bring it down a tiny bit. Let's give it a fill. Let's make it a black fill. So far I'm sticking to 2 colors, but I wanna talk about using an additional color. So this one, let's make it 1/2 inch. Something like that for like the hat coming off. Maybe something like that. Fill, black. And then let's gonna duplicate this circle and bring it up and then scale it to get that shape of the hat. Maybe bigger. All right, so this is my like basic snowman. So now what I can do, I want to leave this component as my design. So I'm going to call it the design. So I don't want to make I don't want to apply any modifiers to these. I'm going to apply the modifier on a different component. So I can like use that for the cut. So I'm going to grab my design into this component. I'm going to call this component the layer one. And this is what I'm going to do. On top of this one, I'm going to apply that modifier. So I'm going to apply that layered stack, which is here at the bottom. So it looks like nothing happens, but here's what I can do. I can distribute all the shapes, and I can select the stroke result. And so this is what my cut is going to look like. And so this is very convenient because, let me get my, let me show you my, I send this to the laser cutter, and this is what I got. So notice that I have the shapes like separate, like so. The slight downside of this technique is then you sort of have to come back and assemble. So the shapes that were like sort of overlapping a little outside of the main shape, then it's easy to place them, like the scarf and the hat. But then the others, you know, I have to kind of like assemble them myself. Here's the nose. Oh, one thing I did with these eyes that I didn't show here is, let me go back to the design here, is if I go to the design component, I wanted to have like little highlights for the eyes. And so this is, I can kind of punch out a little bit of the highlight of the eye to, by creating a circle, making it small, like 0.1. And so if I want to punch out of the black, basically what I want to do is make that fill the same as the bottom layer. So the same as the base layer, right? So notice that this little guy, if I go back over to where I applied the modifier, now is like punching out of the eye. But it's not punching a hole all the way through. That's like important. So that's the other technique I wanted to remark on. If you want to punch out, you use the color of the previous layer. So let's duplicate this one, and I'm going to move it to the other eye like so. So that kind of creates a little like cutout highlights for the eyes. Let me show you what it looks like over here if you put them together again. So there we go. So then when I send this one to the laser cutter, this is what I got. That's why these little guys have the little punch out. So you get to assemble this guy, and that's what that looks like. All right, so I wanted to explain another element of layer stack, which is like when you have more than 2 colors. So let's add another element here. So let's go back to the design here. And so let's say I want to add another element, like a heart. Let's try a heart. So I'm going to place a heart here in the center. Maybe it'd be nice on the side, but I'm going to just do it on the center. And I'm going to choose a different fill. I'm going to choose a red fill just to show you what happens. So when you add a different fill, like let's go back to the layer stack, distribute. Here it looks the same. Sorry. So here it looks the same, but because the red fill is on top of the black, then it's going to create an additional cutout for that heart. So if I distribute it, you'll see that I get a black heart and a red heart, because that's how I get like dimension. So when I cut that version, I ended up with the same thing, but then I ended up with like 2 additional hearts. That's because one is the black heart that like belongs to this layer, and then an additional one is this red one over here. So that's how I gain like a little dimension with the layers. So that's kind of like the basic idea for the layer stack. I suppose I could explain it more carefully, but let me continue. Now, if I wanna try a different treatment. With the same design, I can cut this layer version, but I can also just create another component, which I'm gonna create here, and I'm gonna call it the scored. And so I can take my design component, place it here, and then let's apply a different treatment to this one. So I'm gonna apply like a combination of modifiers. So first I'm gonna flatten it. So flatten it works very similarly down here, in that it takes anything that is the same color and joins it together, and anything that is a different color, it will also join it together. But if I distribute it, see how the black kind of punched out a hole on the previous one? So this is a little more complicated to assemble, but it creates a completely flat design. But this is not where I want to stop, actually. I'm going to flatten it, so then I'm going to apply the Weld and Score. So it's kind of funny, but like now the flatten joins all the shapes that are the same color. But the Weld and Score, it's going to create this situation where I get a basic, so I get like a basic outline that I can cut, but then everything that was joining that was a different color gets scored. This one is much faster, kind of much easier to cut because it's a single layer, but it looks like that. So you can see I have all the same elements, but now this one got cut in a single piece, and then I got all the elements scored. So that's like a really quick version of making, I got the same design, but I got 2 different treatments depending on, how much time I have to cut them. So the next thing I wanted to show is that sometimes you actually want a hole to punch all the way through all the layers. And so that's where we can go back to our design. And then, because if I wanted to be an ornament, I can take that circle. I can take a circle to punch a hole. Let's make it, what is that, about 0.15 or 0.19, something like that. And so I want that circle to have a white fill. So let's select the white. And so now, because let's go check out the layer stack over here. So notice how that white circle punched a hole through all the different layers. And that is because on the layer stack, we have the white selected as the background color. And so that one, it's convenient because now when I cut that one, here's the cut version of that with all the pieces in pieces. But you can see that I have the hole punching through the base layer. Then I have the hole punching through that black layer. And then I have the rest of my elements that I can assemble. I have the heart and the smile, the nose, the eyes. So that's how you like punch elements all the way through. So here we have the kind of three versions. We have the one which is the layers, have the one with the layers with a hole punching through, and then we have the sort of Weld and Score version. But I think once you have your design sort of settled, you might want to add other details, because like other versions I've seen out there, like Snowman Ornaments, have like additional details, and so I think we might want to add like additional scores. So here's where we're going to have to make destructive changes, because at this point, any changes I make on my design element here, let's say if I have like, if I make a bigger heart, or if I change the tilt of that heart, that immediately translates to all the other designs that I made, because it's a version of that component. So you can see it all working out. It even works on the scored version. But what if I want to add like additional scored elements to my design? So that's the one that I want to show you, which is let's say I lock this design the way I wanted it. Let's go back to no tilt. And then, oh yeah, no, the tilt is, I put the hard element again. That was red. Okay, cool. Here we go. So let's say I kind of locked down my design where I want it, but I want to add like additional features. So I'm going to create a new component. I'm going to take my design, place it over here. I'm going to apply the layer stack modifier. Then I'm going to get the stroke result, and I'm going to distribute it. So now I have my separate elements, and now I'm going to apply some operations to these. But in order to apply some operations to these, I'm going to turn it into paths. So I'm going to select all of that, and I'm going to go to the edit, and there is an option here that's called convert to paths. So that essentially destroys all the changes, or kind of bakes them in, might be a better way to put it. So now that it's converted to paths, then you see here that I get a group. I'm going to ungroup it so I can play around with it. And that group contains this pad, which is the heart. Maybe I don't want that one. Then it contains a compound pad, which is the cut of the separate elements, and it contains another compound pad, which is the overall cut of the main shape. So let's see, what I want to do is I want to turn all of these into cuts. So I'm going to make them red, and I want to make them red. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this version. So I'm going to right click and then duplicate over here. And I'm going to move it over so it's on top of this one. But then this one, I'm going to make it blue, because I want to have like that feature where like there's a scored element that is going to help you align things. So I'm going to use blue for my scores. So let's select blue. And usually when we add the scores, the idea is that they help you kind of align the pieces. And then we give them a little contract, just a tiny bit. So they essentially get scored on the shape, but then they're just guides, and they disappear once you place the other elements. So there are a couple of things I wanted to add. So now that these pieces are separate here, I'm just going to add a few scored elements. So I'm going to add another arc, let's say to suggest like the rim of the hat, something like that. Maybe it could be a little flatter. And I want that to be a score, so I'm gonna create the blue element here. Let's say I wanna have like a nicely more well suggested kind of lines for the scarf. So I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna grab. Oh, should I do this with an arc? Yeah, let's try an arc. No, actually, let's just do it by hand. I'm going to select the pen tool, connect these 2 points. Then when I'm done, I can click these. And so I want to just kind of suggest the curve right there. So I'm going to double click to edit that path. And I'm just going to bend it by clicking right on the center and just kind of bending it. So it just kind of follows that curve. So that kind of suggests that there is a separation right there. Let's make it blue for a score. And then similarly, I want like a separation between the 2 strands. So I'm going to add another line. So I'm going to go from this corner to this point. Done here. And perhaps that one could have that looks good actually. It could have a gentle curve perhaps, something like that. Yeah, not bad. So now I have like kind of like more detail on those elements. And at this point, I could even add some text, I think. I think we like text on the Cuttle templates. I think I'm gonna use this text around circle to place it right here. So here I'm gonna change the scale of the circle first, so it's kind of inside of the body of my snowman or the belly, and then I'm gonna change the size of the text. And let's choose, I want to score it too, so I'm gonna use one of these the text that is just like score lines, and I want that to be blue as well because I want it to score all in the same pass. So yeah, this is kind of like the next version of it. Let me get the overhead to show you what that looks like. So I got all the scored elements on my base. So notice that I have the heart, the text, and then all the little elements. These are slightly inset, maybe not a lot. And then I get all the separate elements. So notice that I have the scarf with my 2 added lines to give it like some dimension right there. I got my hat with the little added line for the rim. And then I still get the score lines where I can place, I wrote let it snow. Let's be consistent. There. The world is whole. I match my design to my object. Okay, so I have the little score element, so I can place my heart and I can glue the eyes where I intended to. Here it's all of that. Something like that. You get the idea. So yeah, I think that hopefully gives you a sort of basic starting point for kind of designing your own elements. I think I went for like a very simple design, but of course you can keep on adding elements to this design that I have here, and all it takes is to add more shapes and then give them a fill or a color. One that I was thinking I could add, but I didn't, would be the arms. It's kind of like a sort of classic. So the arms could be like a couple of sticks, something like that. Sorry, I messed that one up. So I simply need to create a couple of lines like so. Then all those lines could get that same treatment, make them into a stroke with a width. There we go. And now I can take this one, mirror it over to the other side, and now I just got arms. And then because I kept that in my design component, then those kind of translate here. So you can see that the arms got added to the base, and then it got added as like separate pieces. The scored version also is very similar. Probably not ideal that it has these little cuts, but if you want the arms to just be part of the main thing, you can change these to be the same color. Anyway, hopefully that gives you a good idea on how to like create some designs and maybe even take them further once you kind of have them logged in. All right, so that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your questions, and I will see you in the next one. All right, bye.